Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I like to discuss the latest reports that a large group of top economists are not expecting much good news where the UK economy is concerned in 2022, when comparable nations have all made complete recoveries or almost complete recoveries from the impacts of the pandemic in 2020. The UK is expected to, if not continue declining, not really grow at much of a rate. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So there's a report in the Financial Times. Of course, where else would you expect to see a report that's based on the views of a load of economists? And it has a whole load of economists expecting UK living standards to deteriorate in 2020. That's their opening line. That's nice and cheery for the hopeful start to a new year. Yeah, living standards are going to deteriorate this year. You know, in a year where, as one wit put it, the world tries for an unprecedented third time to get 2020 right. There are multiple reasons for the glum appraisal, which can be put down to factors that are directly caused by Brexit, as well as others that Brexit just makes worse. However, I would argue that even where a factor isn't directly Brexit, it is Brexit that has created the problem. And the reason I say that is because other comparable economies have bounced back from the COVID-fueled economic slump of 2020. In 2020, economies shrank. Of course, yes, the world shut down for a bit. And yes, the pandemic hasn't gone away now. And this is still causing a whole range of issues around the world in manufacturing, food production, transport, and so on. But advanced economies have still bounced back. Like, most are still not making economic gains as such. The United States is. You know, that is that their economy hasn't grown compared to 2019. It's still getting up to that level, but it's about at that level. It's about there, and more will push through in 2022. But in 2021, the UK economy didn't bounce back. It carried on a downward trajectory, really. It's expected to still do so or level off or go up a little bit in 2022. But it's still going to be a long way off a recovery is the key thing. So what is different about the UK that the other economies will have recovered by the end of 2022 and back into growth, and the UK will still be badly lagging behind? What is the difference between the UK and these other advanced economies? The obvious difference is Brexit. Yes, there are global pressures, as the government and the Brexit media like to talk about, but those global pressures also impact other countries. Only the UK has failed to stage a recovery in 2021. And when I say that, what I really mean is Britain. Because Northern Ireland's economy did bounce back, just like other comparable economies. In the article, which I'll discuss some more aspects of in a moment, there was one really crucial statement that kept coming up again and again from economist after economist. The UK government do not have an economic plan. Now, you could put this down to just general incompetence. That's not Brexit, that's just the government we've got. Boris Johnson is not a serious Prime Minister, and he has formed a cabinet of Secretaries of State who are also, by and large, not at all serious about governing. But it's more fundamental than that, because before you can have a plan for something, what do you need to do? You need to carry out an investigation into the various factors which make up the problem that you wish to solve. I mean, that's standard for any plan. What exactly is your problem? The government cannot afford to carry out a detailed, wide-ranging investigation into the UK economy. They cannot afford to identify all the problems because such an investigation would conclude that Brexit is either the cause or is a complicating factor in virtually every problem. And because the government cannot investigate the problems, they cannot come up with solutions. Although the solutions would be just as politically toxic for them as the problems, because they would involve reversing elements of Brexit. So of course the government don't have an economic plan. They can't have an economic plan. Of course there's no strategy to boost our productivity. They can't afford to have one because it would expose the deep damage that they are doing to the country with Brexit. So although expert economists will pick apart the issues and come to reasoned conclusions, I'd be very surprised if anyone could ever sound a note of real optimism about the UK economy whilst the current government remains in place, because a country's economy is not just going to go back, it's not just going to get boosted back up without government intervention. And there'll be elements where you can be a bit optimistic, though often when you read about these notes of optimism, it tends to be along the lines of, well, that's not as bad as we'd feared. Sort of like the Brexiteers claiming victory these days because Brexit hasn't yet caused us all to starve. Oh, we're still breathing. Brexit can't be that bad after all, can it? One economist, Jagjit Chadha, put it well in terms of the key issues, I thought. And again, this was what he said was sort of echoed by others, but he nailed it for me. He said, a combination of a ragged edge over Brexit and political uncertainty will continue to hamper what might otherwise have been a stronger recovery. Specifically, trade, investment and FDI are unlikely to recover strongly, and the skills gap in the labour market simply cannot easily be addressed in the coming year alone. And that skills gap is a massive worry. Without a government economic plan, we're basically left hoping businesses all individually make something of their post-Brexit trading environment. Indeed, the government have explicitly stated that this is their policy. They have delivered Brexit. It's down to businesses to see the opportunities in it. Basically, the government's saying that they're not going to do anything to stimulate the economy. So how do businesses address a severe skills shortage? The capacity for businesses to just train people up for those skills is limited, and it can only work at all for businesses that are doing well enough to be able to spend some of their money on this significant investment of both money and time to train people up. Basically, on the scale that we need skilling up, it's not going to be done without government intervention. And when you read the collective thoughts of these economists, it's basically down to this. 1, lack of government economic plan. Doesn't exist. 2, poor decision making over the pandemic. 3, a shortage of skills in the labour market. And 4, Brexit making everything worse. Even some views that we might see the same level of growth as the EU in 2022 has to be considered in the context of the EU having already bounced back last year. Remember, a percentage growth, you get higher percentage growth if you start off from a lower base, of course. So if we have growth and that growth is proportionally the same as the EU, we are still going to lag behind because they leapt ahead in 2021 when we were still going down. And even they say that we will definitely lag behind America's growth because of their stimulus efforts. The best that any of them seem to come up with in terms of specific rays of sunshine for the UK economy was strong investment in technology. It cited tax support as a reason for doing this. But the view was also made that these benefits would likely just turn into corporate profits rather than better wages for the workers. So we wouldn't actually get the benefit from even that little nugget of hope. And then consider the latest pandemic news. We weren't coping with Delta. The government and the media just ignored it and hoped that we wouldn't realise it. They didn't draw attention to it, but we weren't coping. We're in no way coping with Omicron either. But now we have a new variant in the country. That's good news, isn't it? Still far too early to say anything about it, of course. It's not even a variant of concern at the time I'm recording this. It's a variant of investigation. I suspect that we won't be able to say something for some time, but I do note that researchers in France are a bit worried about it. What impact that will have when the government continue to make the wrong decision on COVID, I dare not think about. When they claim they are prioritising the economy, and yet our economic performance is the worst in the G7, it's like every time you give Boris Johnson a decision to make, it's the wrong one or it's at the wrong time. And this is Brexit as well, really. Conservative MPs know that Boris Johnson is not up to the job of government, and they've always known that. They've known that from the start. They elected him to sort Brexit out. They believed he could do that. And from a particular point of view, he did. Without Brexit, it doesn't seem likely that Johnson would have ever become Prime Minister. But one thing is certain. Without Brexit, if he had been made Prime Minister, if they did get behind him for whatever other reason, the stars aligned for him, his failure in the role would not have been tolerated for as long as it has. But even when he's gone, he's poisoned the well. Because whomever takes over, no matter how competent in the usual sense they may be, they're still going to be stuck with the same conundrum. How do you boost the economy without an economic plan? How do you get an economic plan that doesn't involve an investigation that identifies fingerprints of Brexit on every problem we have and which calls for a reversal of Brexit to solve? And that will remain our problem for as long as our government are comprised of people directly responsible for Brexit, directly responsible for the lies of Brexit. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button if you'd like to support the channel further. Please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.